The 11th of October has gone, 7 o'clock, top of the morning to you. Good to have you with us on the SA Morning. So, no load shedding, no blackouts, at least not for the moment. So, traffic flowing normally as we head into rush hour. We'll have blackouts again from 4 p.m. this afternoon till midnight. So, enjoy the lights while you can. That's in place until Wednesday as well, 4 p.m. till midnight.
And Mothotoane, always a pleasure being with you in this hour. This is the hour where we get to have, of course, special guests joining us for a good part of 7 a.m. We get to spend time with them, ask the questions that you want to be asked, get to have your tweets read out. So please make sure that you continue to tweet at eNCA. You can tweet, of course, Gareth Edwards' personal account. We are joined by Helen Zille.
We are in Johannesburg.
Very first time Russian South African morning joining us live on the show. Good morning.
Good morning, Tumelo. Good to be with you today.
Good to be with you.
In my hometown.
Your hometown, Johannesburg?
Yes.
Really?
Johannesburg. I was born in Hillbrow. So when I look at this picture at the back here, I
brings back memories?
feel homesick, yes.
Yeah. Which part can you spot?
Well, the Princess Nursing Home. It isn't there anymore, but that's where I was born.
Oh, wow.
It's good to have you on the show. And just Tumelo did mention as well, if you want to get any tweets through, it's your show as well. I'm sure Helen Zille won't mind if we get a couple of tweets. I'll keep an eye on my phone as well, at Gareth Edwards.
Oh, I can't tweet now. I haven't got my phone.
You haven't got your phone with you. So we'll get it from our side, at eNCA, or tweet me at Gareth Edwards SA. And no, I can't get through all of them, but I am going to try and keep an eye on the phone without being rude while we have Helen Zille with us. And Helen, there's a lot to talk about. I'm just going to try and we work our way back through the news if we can. Just yesterday we had our viewer question on this ministerial handbook. I just want to get your thoughts on this, because then we've seen the statement which says, to my mind, really nothing else. We're still paying, or taxpayers are paying, for ministers' power and water.
Well, it is a complete outrage that in South Africa, where people live every day without power, and in Johannesburg without water, ministers are shielded from the experience of the people they're supposed to represent. They wouldn't know what load shedding is, because load shedding avoids the areas where ministers are, and they always have generators or whatever else they do. And then, to add insult to injury, to have the taxpayers pay their electricity costs and pay their water costs is, as I said, insult to injury. That is where that saying comes from. Here are people supposed to represent the people. The ANC is always saying how they represent the poor and they're the only party that can speak for the masses. And yet here they are making sure that they don't have any of the experiences that people battle with every single day. So it's a complete outrage. But, you know, in the end, voters get the government they vote for, and that is the government they deserve. So people must understand that this is a consequence of the way the majority voted.
If the DA could have it its way, if they were in power, how would they handle such perks by ministers?
Well, what we did when I came in as Premier of the Western Cape is we really pared down the Ministerial handbook. On cars, on blue lights, on you name it. We pared it right down. And I thought that that was the right thing to do. I never had a luxury car. What I drove around in was something from the government fleet. It was an old Kombi, because a Kombi was good, so that when I had to go around to meetings with various people who had to accompany me, like different MECs or different experts or officials to answer questions on the goings-on that people were interested in, we could all go in one car, one Kombi, and not put 5 cars on the road, that sort of thing. And that's what you do. You literally are a servant of the people. Now, I lived in a lovely house, Leeuwenhof, and I was aware of that extraordinary privilege. But when my husband and I, when I became the Premier, we decided not to move to Leeuwenhof. And then the issue was the expense that the province was incurring for an empty house. And it is a heritage house, a government house. So we moved into Leeuwenhof, but we spent the minimal amount that we could just on basic maintenance. And we were absolutely very aware of living modestly and appropriately.
I did need to ask, because I had a chance to speak to Stephanie Fick, Outer, head of legal, yesterday on this issue, Helen, and she raised a very good point, and I think this is what upsets most South Africans, is there is a general idea of what ministers are earning. These are not minimum wage workers, let's be honest. They are earning very good salaries. Why should there be, to be blunt about it, why should ministers, even deputy ministers, get any perks at all, considering what they earn?
That's a very, very good question. And I think that we need to challenge that. They would argue, I'm not arguing this, they would argue that compared to the CEOs of companies, they earn quite little, which is true if you compare the millions that CEOs of companies get. Now, without going into that and questioning whether anybody is worth 30 million rand a year, for example, and whether anybody adds that much value, I would not even go near that comparison, because the people who are appointed as ministers are often not there for their skills and their ability and their managerial capacity and their strategic knowledge, or even the knowledge of their subject that they're supposed to be the minister of. And so to compare yourself to someone who's been through the fierce ranks of the ladder in the corporate world is just a bit far-fetched. Normally, ministers are there because of their political connections and because their political principle has to do a balance of forces in the party to ensure that every faction is represented. And it's got nothing to do with your capacity to add value.
We're going to continue with this conversation. Helen Zille not going anywhere. And when we come back, a lot has to be, accounted for just in terms of what's been happening with our coalitions. And Helen Zille here to, of course, give us some of those answers, not just only in Johannesburg, but also what we are hearing from the ANC saying they're quite adamant to make sure they get back Tshwane as well as Ekurhuleni.
So our coalition's working. We're going to get the thoughts of Helen Zille in a couple of minutes from now. And then when we start going to the minutiae of coalitions, we're going to drill down as well as to what's been happening in Joburg, specifically the change of mayorship, the DA fighting back on that as well. We'll get the thoughts of Helen Zille. Keep those tweets coming in. I see Tebogo Seraule asking Helen Zille, how do you feel about Hillbrow today? I think we're referring to the image behind us of downtown. I don't know. We'll ask Helen Zille when we come back. But keep your tweets coming in at eNCA, at Gareth Edwards SA. We'll have that for you soon.